And help me welcome Vic Sorrell back with us this morning. We know we are all here by divine appointment. So let's stand up and sing.
I've got joy.
I've got joy, 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 joy in my soul. I've got joy, joy, joy. Spirit led, the good times roll. I got joy, 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 joy in my soul. Singing glory, hallelujah. I've got joy in my soul. I've got peace, 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 peace in my soul. I've got peace, 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 Spirit led, the good times roll. I got peace, 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 peace in my soul. Singing glory, hallelujah. I've got peace in my soul. I've got love, 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 love in my soul. I've got love, 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 Spirit led, the good times roll. I got love, 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 love in my soul. Singing glory, hallelujah. I've got love in my soul. Singing glory, hallelujah. I've got peace in my soul. Singing glory, hallelujah. I've got joy in my soul. Woo!
Is everyone awake?
Yes. So, all righty. Some announcements. We are currently meeting at Comfort Suites at 2521 Elm Hill Pike in Nashville. Hello. We're here.
We're here.
We're here. We have been here. And we will be here a little bit longer. Our new email address is unityofmusiccity@gmail.com. Our phone number remains the same. So if you had the church phone number before, you still have it. Our new mailing address is 4636 Lebanon Pike, number 208, Hermitage 37076. The prayer chaplains are always available for your prayers. If there's something that you need the High Watch held for you, they are there for you. Just make them aware of it. You can email that prayer request to uofmcprayerrequests@gmail.com, and any and all prayer requests will be welcomed. There's a prayer box in the back of the room. If you have a prayer that you want to jot down on a little piece of paper, I think there's probably some papers back there, and you can just drop that in the box and they will pray for your request for 30 days, and then we're still sending it. Are we okay? We're not sending it, but they're still going to hang on to them and they're going to pray. Believe me, they got a list going. The position, there was a Michael Ellie request, and that position has been filled. So we've got success at that, and we're so grateful for the answer of prayer to that one. The Lunch Bunch Book Club will be on hiatus throughout the summer. We will regroup in the fall, so keep an eye out for Karen's announcement about that. The Welcome Team is hiring. They're looking for a ministry lead and smiling faces. Isn't there a song, Smiling Faces? I don't know. Anyway.
There is now.
There ought to be. I think there is one. Someone, smiling faces to meet and greet. Just because we're at a different location doesn't mean that we don't need smiling faces to meet and greet. So if that one is calling your name, we could sure use the welcome team could sure use your help on that on Sunday mornings. Okay? Reach out. Who would they reach out to if they want to do that?
They can email Janet or on the board.
Email Janet, the office and, say, hey, I'm interested in that. All right, thank you. Let's sing again.
All right, heart to heart, spirit to spirit, the winds of our truth have blown. Let's stand as you are able. Seated.
Good morning. This morning's sacred reading comes from A Return to Love. It is by Marianne Williamson. Love is God. The affirmation, love does not conquer all things, but it does set all things right. If you repeat that with me. Love does not conquer all things, but it does set all things right. Love is taken seriously as a radical outlook, a major departure from the psychological orientation that rules the world. It is threatening not because it is a small idea, but because it is so huge. For many people, God is a frightening concept. Asking God for help doesn't seem very comforting if we think of him as something outside ourselves, or capricious, or judgmental. But God is love. We are created in his image or mind, which means we are extensions of his love. This is why we are called sons of God. We think we authored God, rather than realizing that he authored us. The Course says we have an authority problem, rather than accepting that we are the loving beings he created. We have arrogantly thought we could create ourselves and then create God. Because we are angry and judgmental, we have projected those characteristics onto him. We have made up a God in our image, but God remains who he is and always has been, the energy, the thought of unconditional love. He cannot think with anger or judgment. He is mercy, and he is compassion and total acceptance. The problem is that we have forgotten this, and so we have forgotten who we ourselves are.
So I just invite you now to be comfortable where you are, as you are, all you are. And if it's comfortable for you, allow your eyes to close, your shoulders to drop, and your feet to be solidly on the floor. as we just relax, we breathe together and know together that the light that is the center of our being is the truth of who we are. And we consciously lay down all other concerns in this moment. We release our preoccupation with the things our earthly lives mean, knowing God is capable and in charge. Every detail is now placed in the hands of love. And as we do so, we realize that our preoccupations can be like walls that stand in front of our awareness of the truth that we are. We are here as beings of infinite love, needing nothing but our own self-recognition as love, to shine the light that is the truth of who we are. We recognize in this moment that light is understanding, our understanding of the truth of ourselves. And for this realization and demonstration, we are born again and again. No limitation or fear can obstruct our purpose when our life is surrendered as love. And in this holy moment, we open to how love might use us to accomplish its purposes. In the holy silence, love, use me. Thy will be done. Light is merely our understanding of the truth of ourselves. For this realization and demonstration as light, we are born again and again. Love, use me. Thy will be done. And so it is. Amen. wonderful, wonderful music. I send my love, I send my peace, I send my joy, and it returns to me. And you can bet on that happening every single time. That's the law. That's the law. So this morning, we're returning to love because I, for one, spun out this past week.
Glad I'm not the only one.
And I know, exactly, that I'm not the only one. And so I thought, that's what we're here to do. We're here to support each other on our journeys as the love that we are. And so it makes good sense that we have been in our homes, we've been confined, and all of a sudden we're back at life. And sometimes that can be overwhelming energetically. So I thought, let's talk about today what is truly ours to remember. In the rush to return to normal, let's use this time to consider which parts of normal are worth rushing back to. Because we certainly do have a choice. And part of returning to love is remembering our opportunity to choose. Our opportunity to set our pace. And remembering that as we take the time to consider how we are identifying as love or lack thereof in any given moment will determine how likely we are to spin right out. So, remaining centered in our walk and our focus on love is simplicity. Because we remember that complexity is of the ego. And complexity is one way that our ego would try to convince us that things are just too much. When it's always our choice of where we focus. Love is always simple. Though it might not be easy, because it's true. We live in a world where the thinking of this world is 180 degrees from the thinking of love. And it's our opportunity, hello Southwestern Virginia, it's our opportunity to remember that love is our option. Love is our choice. We will not solve the problems of the world on the level of thinking we were at when we created them. Albert Einstein. And so our lesson today from A Course in Miracles centers around the truth that you think you may have many problems, but you really only have one, and that is your separation from God. Now, the last time I was here, we talked about the fact that we can no more be separate from God than any wave can be separate from the ocean, or any sunbeam can be separate from the sun, but we can think that we are. And therein lies our greatest opportunity and our greatest liability. We can think we're separate from God, therefore we can fall into identification in all different ways other than love. When we think we're one with God, we're one with love. God is love. Love is God. But when we forget that, anything can become our identity if we're not very careful. Why? Well, God and love are synonymous, but if we're thinking apart from God, we're thinking apart from love, and in this world, love is our only prayer. The neurosis that we see in the world, the chaos that we see in the world, love is the only answer, and our remembrance of ourselves as love, get this, is our only true contribution to the resolve or the resolution of the chaos we see. Our remembrance of ourselves as love in the face of chaos is our only true contribution. So the separation of our consciousness from love is the separation of ourselves from the ground of our being, from who we truly are. It's as if we're making a recipe without the main ingredient. Imagine if you were going to try to make guacamole, but you didn't have avocado. That's what happens when we intend to address the chaos in the world, but we haven't first aligned with love. Marianne Williamson says, align with love and go kick ass. And I love it, because I think that's a very true to the times concept. We do have to be strong. We have to be clear in who we know ourselves to be as love, or else we will be easily manipulated, convinced otherwise. So on that note, this morning, one of the first things that I saw when I opened my eyes was this that was posted on Instagram, and that said, people treat you exactly how they feel about you. Be blind if you want to. People treat you exactly how they feel about you. Be blind if you want to. Okay, so what if we're not blind? What if we do realize fully that people are treating us in a way that is reflective of how they might not feel about us? What does that ultimately have to do with us, though? And how we treat them, or how we allow ourselves to feel about them? Abraham Hicks says, when you focus on how you feel about them, and you allow your vibration around them to rise, it doesn't matter how they feel about you. That's a completely separate reality. I treat you according to the love I choose to have for you. Why? Because loving is my nature. And I choose to be in alignment with the truth that I am. So a lot of times, an opportunity that we have when we are considering our choice to be in love has to do with how we respond to how people treat us. People don't always treat us with the love that they may or may not know themselves to be. But we have the choice how we treat people based on who we know ourselves to be. We have the choice about how we allow ourselves to conceive of people based on who we know ourselves to be. We're ideas in the mind of God, and we're meant to live on the earth from a place where through every thought and every behavior, there is an extension of that thought that we are channeling the love that is within us, the love that we truly are. So, just like turning on a lamp in a darkened room remedies the state of absence that is darkness, we have the power to remember ourselves as love, which instantly eliminates the possibility of fear in our own minds. But when we go too long without remembering who we truly are, we can very easily become blind to our own truth and our own divine nature. And as I said before, it's extremely easy to do this because everywhere we turn in the world, there is another voice saying, if you do thus and such, so-and-so won't like you. And then they won't do what it is that you think they need you to do, that you need them to do in order to get what you think you want. See how we so easily become master manipulators out of our fear when we forget the love that we are. Love has a plan. And love has a place for us in the plan. But when we decide we have to create ourselves and create our lives with our own ego minds and our own means, the plan that love would have for us falls to the wayside. We're not available to it. So in reality, the problem is not just the chaos in the world, but our identification with the chaos. our lack of remembrance that the chaos is not who we are, but a collective behavior that occurs as the result of forgetting who we are. And the only antidote is to remember the truth. That is, we are love in any given moment. Now, A Course in Miracles talks about the concept of negative denial. And when you think about it, we all know ourselves even to be victims of negative denial. It's when we put our heads in the sand. We bury our heads in the sand and we refuse to look at the chaos. We refuse to look at the negative behavior. We refuse to look at our own habits that are holding our lives in lower vibrational places, our own habits. But yet there is positive denial, as A Course in Miracles describes it, which is the denial of the power of the world, of the voices of the world, over our own will to be and act in alignment with love. So you have negative denial when you're not afraid, when you're afraid to even look at it. I won't turn on the news. I'm not saying don't limit the news. Limiting the news is probably a very wise thing to do. Not being willing to look at it at all could be a form of negative denial. If you're not aware of what's going on, if you're not aware of the chaos, how can you be available to how you can show up in the midst of chaos as the light of love that you are? We must first be aware of the dysfunction in order to be the light within it. And A Course in Miracles speaks about the truth of the miracle worker is that they are committed to being the light that is the answer to the darkness. And this requires some willingness to at least acknowledge the darkness so that we can be available to how we might be an answer. And we remember in this moment, there's no such thing as a neutral thought. So that really puts things in perspective right quick like, as my dad used to say, right quick like. There's no such thing as a neutral thought. So if the mind is being used in service to fear or neurosis, then it can't be available to be used in the service of love. Sometimes, despite what we've heard in Unity and New Thought for years, things expand when we're not willing to acknowledge them. Think about the things in your life that you've not been willing to address. And they've grown. They've festered. Something's been on the back burner, but it continues to simmer, right? And a lot of times in New Thought, we are used to hearing that which you focus on expands. Well, that which we're unable and unwilling to address also continues. I think I need a bigger surface area up here. So it brings us to the place where many of us are in understanding that we've studied this stuff long enough to know what we need to do, but it's time to step up our game. It's time to bump it up a notch. A Course in Miracles says 5 minutes every morning is enough to align our consciousness such that the thoughts of God and the thoughts of love will direct the course of our thinking and our activities the entire day. 5 minutes. Dear God, use me. What would you have me do? Where would you have me go? And what would you have me say? And to whom? Your problem is that it's not that you don't believe in love. Your problem is you don't believe in love only. That's A Course in Miracles as well. So God has a plan, and we're the people that God needs us to be when we remember the truth of ourselves as love. That's our most important work. And right now in this space, it's very difficult to lie to ourselves because so many of us are gathered right now in the name of the truth. So ask right now, God, what is my place? What is my peace? We can look at the world and allow ourselves to be overwhelmed by the darkness. We can refuse to look at the world, or we can look at the world, acknowledge the darkness, and say, thank God I'm here. We are ideas in the mind of God, and God had a great idea in sending you and sending me. The entire world is filled with infinite possibility, but those of us who are willing to entertain this possibility are those who are needed for the possibility to happen through our hands, our hearts. There's a songwriter from the Richmond, Virginia area, and she wrote one of the most powerful lyrics I've heard, and that is, "Where is God in the midst of tragedy, but living in the hearts and hands of humanity?" We are the hearts and hands of God. But do we know that? Is that the first thing we think every day when our eyes open and our feet hit the floor? I'm the hands of God. I'm the heart of God. I'm the voice of God. I'm the face of God. There's nothing humble about thinking about those who have led us through difficult times in the past and thinking then, I hope another Martin Luther King or JFK shows up. No. Humility is the willingness to see us, to see ourselves as we are, and be willing to step up and step out in service as needed. We are the ones that we need. We are the ones that have been called. This may look a certain way, but what this really is a training center. And everything we discuss in this container is needed in the world as us, through us, for us. That's the beauty of it. What we learn in this container makes us feel better, do better, be better. But then we take that to the world by means of our consciousness. We can't help but contribute. There's no such thing as a neutral thought. And so how we see ourselves, how we heal, is how we show up in the world, for the exact chaos that we see all around us every day, all day long. Where is God in the midst of tragedy, but living in the hearts and hands of humanity? Okay, there's a page 4 here. The untethered soul, that's where we're going next. I spoke about this a little bit last time, and I spoke about chapter 7, which is one of the most important chapters I've ever read in a book. But today I'm going to talk a little bit about chapter 9, which is removing your inner thorn. In this chapter, Michael Singer basically talks about how our wounds, when they go unaddressed, when we aren't willing to look at them and do the work that is ours to do to heal them, they become like thorns in our sides and our arms that we protect. And we go through our lives trying to protect our wounds, trying to keep ourselves from being in a place where our wounds get activated, where our wounds get rubbed up against. We tend to avoid certain people because they get on our nerves. We tend to avoid certain places because it's just too much. But we never really take into consideration why that is. It's not about them. It's about us. And so in this chapter, Michael Singer talks about freeing ourselves from the thorns, from the wounds. How do you free yourself? In the deepest sense, you free yourself by finding yourself. You free yourself by finding yourself. You're not the pain you feel, nor are you the part that periodically stresses out. Remember? None of these disturbances have anything to do with you. You are the one who notices these things. Because your consciousness is separate and aware of these things, you too can free yourself. The mere fact that you notice it's happening means that you can free yourself from it. Since your inner thorns are simply blocked energies from the past, they can be released. Our inner thorns, our wounds, are simply blocked energy from the past, and they can be released. But are we about the work of doing that? Just that. Because, and this is the most important part of this talk, a reminder is that when we've been in this teaching for a long time, something that our ego does to keep us from actually being who love needs us to be in the world is it holds us in woundology. Carolyn Mace, woundology. In other words, we are so consumed with our wounds and the wounds of the people that we support that we call that self-care, and we never heal. We simply stay in the woundedness, and we coddle each other. We have this tendency. I'm not putting this on any particular person. I'm saying that we have this tendency in New Thought, when what really is needed for us to do is heal. Heal. Jesus, the man at Bethesda who wanted to be healed. What did Jesus tell the man at Bethesda? Take up your bed and walk. The same is needed for us. Heal and move forward and support other people in their healing, not in their experience of woundedness. But the last thing a lot of us want to hear when we're in pain is there's another place. I know that's true, but I just really would rather not hear that right now. I'm going to have to sit with my pain. That's fine. That's fine. I think that there is an appropriate part of sitting with our pain, of acknowledging, of understanding what the wounds are. And then take up your bed and walk. Heal. Be about the process of transforming what has happened into what can happen. We teach what we most need to learn. It's in our own willingness to see ourselves and know ourselves as love by and for ourselves that taking up our bed and walking happens. Our identity in love. If we identify as love, we are whole. Period. A candle loses nothing by lighting another candle. When we are willing to heal and shine the light of love in the world, we give others the permission to do the same. And eventually, as one healed and illumined candle lights another one, we all become aware of our truth. Our wounds are meant for healing. Not only feeling, but also healing. The same way that any circumstance that's ever happened in the history of mankind has been meant to be reconciled, learned through, learned from, righted, and moved on from. We're the same. Let love use you, everything you've lived and everything you have. Let love use that. We've arrived at the age where cosmic adulthood is being able to rise above our own guilt and self-condemnation to a place of being willing, receptive, equipped, and whole as love vehicles. Willing, receptive, equipped, and whole as love vehicles. It's time for us to support each other in our strengths, in our dreams, in our vision. We have much chaos to transform and a planet to save. This is true. But only within us, as and through our recognition of ourselves as love, is the guidance and the power to do just that. This is what it means when Course in Miracles teaches, ultimately you may think you have many problems, but there is only truly ever one problem. Our separation of our thinking from the thinking of God. Our separation of our thinking from the thinking of love. So we can recognize how judgmental the mind can be, and yet we can choose to remember that the love in me can recognize the love in you. Love doesn't need perfect people. Love needs those who are willing to be audaciously defined and directed by it. Audaciously. Love needs those of us who, when asked, who do you think you are, God's gift to the world? We will gladly stand up, speak out, and say, absolutely, yes. Namaste.
Thank you, Vic. Let's stay in this vibration for just a couple more minutes, and as we think about the prosperity that we have in our lives, in the physical world, all of the prosperity that we have from the love that we have in our lives, from the money that comes to us and through us, and consider all of the prosperity that we have from the other side too, which is all the love that we have from our spiritual family, all the love that we have from our friends. And let's consider that and say our offertory blessing. I am open to receiving floods of financial abundance with ease, so that I may be able to give back even more to the world around me. So it is. Let's all stand as we are able and sing Infinite Abundance.
The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well.
next week.